Life is a silent conversation between you and the universe, a dialogue shaped not by words, but by the way you navigate love, loss, and the quiet moments in between. We often seek answers in noise, chasing validation, clinging to what no longer serves us, and fearing the unknown. But true wisdom isn't found in the chaos, it is discovered in the stillness. In the moments when you choose dignity over desperation, solitude over shallow connections, and purpose over fleeting approval. The question is, are you willing to listen? To step away from the distractions and embrace the lessons that shape the strongest minds? Today we uncover the truths that will shift your perspective and redefine how you move through this world. Stay with me, and let's begin. 1. Silent departures, the strength in letting go. There is a quiet power in walking away, a strength that doesn't announce itself with anger or grand gestures, but with silent certainty. Many believe strength in relationships means holding on, fighting harder, and proving one's worth. But the truth is, real strength lies in knowing when to let go, in valuing yourself enough to walk away from spaces where your presence is no longer honored. We've all been there, staring at unanswered messages, excusing distant behavior, convincing ourselves that if we just try harder, things will return to how they once were. But relationships, like seasons, change, and not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. The greatest mistake is believing that love means endurance at any cost, that self-worth is something to be negotiated rather than upheld. Take Sarah, for example, a woman who spent years in a relationship where she was always the second choice. At first, she told herself it was temporary, that one day he would see her worth. She forgave the broken promises, overlooked the emotional distance, and convinced herself that love meant patience. But deep down, she knew. She felt the absence of warmth in his touch, the hollow pauses in their conversations, the way his eyes wandered when she spoke. Still, she stayed, because leaving felt like failure, because she feared the silence that would come after. One evening, as she sat across from him in a dimly lit cafe, she asked about their future. He hesitated, shifting uncomfortably in his chair, his words vague and uncertain. That was the moment it hit her, not as an explosion, but as a quiet realization. She had spent years waiting for someone to choose her when she had never once chosen herself. Sarah didn't argue. She didn't plead. She simply smiled, placed her coffee cup down, and stood up. "I think we want different things," she said, her voice steady. And just like that, she left, not with bitterness, but with the quiet dignity of a woman who had reclaimed her worth. Society often portrays strength as resistance, as the ability to fight for what we want. But true strength is knowing what to fight for, and, more importantly, what to release. Walking away is not giving up, it's choosing yourself. It's understanding that your presence is not a debt to be repaid, nor a privilege to be begged for. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." This applies not only to self-improvement, but to relationships as well. Stop debating your worth in someone else's eyes. Stop trying to prove your value to those who refuse to see it. Simply embody it. It's easy to say, if someone doesn't value you, leave. But in practice, leaving is one of the hardest things to do. Why? Because we attach our identity to relationships. We believe that if someone stops loving us, It reflects something broken within us. But love is not a mirror. It does not define you. The way someone treats you is a reflection of them, not a measurement of your worth. Fear convinces us that solitude is a punishment, that being alone is proof of inadequacy. But here's a perspective shift. Solitude is not emptiness, it's space. Space to heal, to grow, to rediscover yourself without the weight of unreciprocated love. If you've ever felt overlooked, unappreciated, or taken for granted, ask yourself this: what am I afraid of losing? Is it truly the person, or just the comfort of familiarity? Are you holding on to love, or simply the idea of it? True strength is understanding that your time, energy, and heart are valuable, that begging for love, attention, or respect is a battle already lost. When someone stops choosing you, let that be your answer. Do not chase. Do not negotiate your worth. Simply step away, because in the end, the people who truly value you will never put you in a position where you have to question your worth. And those who do, they are already gone, long before you even realized. Months after Sarah left, something incredible happened. She found peace. The silence she once feared became her sanctuary. She stopped waiting for messages that would never come, stopped justifying behavior that should never have been tolerated. She traveled, met new people, and most importantly, met herself again, the version of her that was whole, not waiting to be completed by someone else. And one day, out of nowhere, she received a message from him, a simple, "Hey, how have you been?" Funny, isn't it? How absence creates clarity. How people only realize what they had when it's gone. But by then, Sarah had learned the greatest lesson. She was never truly losing him. He had already lost her. If you take one thing from this, let it be this: walking away is not weakness. It is an act of self-respect. The people who truly deserve a place in your life will never make you feel like you have to earn it. So if you feel like you're fighting to be seen, loved, or valued, pause, look around, and ask yourself, is this a battle worth fighting? Because sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is your absence. And in that silence, you'll find the strength you never knew you had. 2. The silent art of giving, when kindness needs boundaries. Generosity is often seen as a virtue, an unshakable pillar of goodness that connects us to others. We are taught from an early age that kindness is a currency of the soul, that giving selflessly makes us better, more honorable, more worthy of love. But what happens when kindness is given without limits? When generosity, instead of bringing fulfillment, leaves you drained, unappreciated, and even resentful? The truth is, kindness without boundaries is not kindness, it is self-neglect. And without wisdom to guide it, generosity can become a silent burden, a weight that erodes your sense of self. Take Daniel, for example, a dependable friend, a reliable co-worker, the kind of person who never says no. If someone needed help moving, he was there. If a co-worker was struggling with deadlines, he stayed late to finish their work. If a friend needed emotional support at 2 a.m., he picked up the phone even when he was exhausted. At first, he felt good about being that person, the one others could count on. But over time, something shifted. He noticed that the same people who leaned on him rarely checked in on him, that his time, his energy, his kindness were being treated as an unlimited resource. The more he gave, the more was expected. One evening, After a particularly long day, a colleague called him in a panic, asking him to finish a report due the next morning. Daniel hesitated. He was exhausted, mentally drained, but his guilt was louder than his exhaustion. He said, "Yes," again. But that night, as he sat alone at his desk, struggling to keep his eyes open, a quiet realization settled over him. When had his kindness become a debt instead of a gift? Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And that includes the philosophy of kindness. True generosity isn't about constantly sacrificing yourself, it's about giving from a place of abundance, not depletion. When you give without boundaries, you unintentionally teach others that your time and energy are theirs to take, that your needs don't matter as much as theirs. But generosity should never come at the cost of self-respect. If your kindness is leading to exhaustion, resentment, or a sense of being used, it is not generosity, it is self-abandonment. So why is it so hard to set boundaries? Because saying no feels like rejection, because we fear being seen as selfish, unkind, or ungrateful. But here's a reality check. Boundaries are not barriers. They do not block connection, they protect it. Think of a river. When it has strong banks, the water flows powerfully, purposefully. But without structure, it floods, losing its direction and causing damage. Your kindness is the same. Without boundaries, it spills over, loses its strength, and drowns you in exhaustion. If you struggle with setting boundaries, start small. The next time someone asks for your time, pause before saying yes. Ask yourself, am I saying yes out of obligation or genuine willingness? If I say yes, will it come at the cost of my well-being? Would this person do the same for me if the roles were reversed? If the answer feels uneasy, consider a different response. Not every request needs an immediate yes. Not every problem requires your sacrifice. Here's a truth you need to accept. The people who genuinely care about you will respect your boundaries. Those who get angry or distant when you stop overextending yourself, they were never in your life for the right reasons. Daniel eventually learned this lesson the hard way. The night he finished that report for his co-worker, he decided something had to change. The next time someone asked him for a favor, he responded differently. "Hey, I'd love to help, but I have my own deadlines right now. Maybe you can try handling it, and if you're still stuck later, I can offer some guidance." At first, it felt unnatural. He was so used to stepping in, taking over, fixing things. But as the weeks passed, something incredible happened. People stopped expecting him to do everything. They found other solutions. They respected his time. And most importantly, Daniel no longer felt like he was being drained by his own kindness. Kindness should be a bridge, not a chain. It should connect, not confine. When you give, do it because you want to, not because you feel obligated. Set limits, not because you lack compassion, but because you value your well-being as much as you value others. True generosity is sustainable. It doesn't leave you exhausted. It is given freely, not forced. And it comes from a place of strength, not sacrifice. So the next time you feel guilty for saying no, remember this. A well that is constantly emptied without being refilled eventually runs dry. Protect your energy, guard your time, and let your kindness be a choice, not a burden. Because the most meaningful generosity is not the one that gives endlessly, but the one that gives wisely. 3. The weight of choice. moving forward without certainty. We long for certainty. We hesitate, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect answer. But life rarely offers guarantees. Decisions are like stepping into fog. You won't always see what's ahead, but standing still will never clear the path. The harsh truth: no choice is ever 100% safe. Yet, inaction is its own decision, and that keeps you trapped in the prison of hesitation. So, how do you move forward when doubt whispers in your ear? How do you make decisions when fear clings to your every thought? You do what every great mind, every successful thinker, every resilient soul has done before you. You step forward anyway. The illusion of the right time. Emma had always dreamed of starting her own business. For years, she told herself she needed more experience, more connections, more certainty. Every time an opportunity arose, she hesitated. What if I fail? What if I'm not ready? And so she stayed where she was comfortable, safe, but unfulfilled. Then one day, she had a conversation with a mentor who asked her a single question that changed everything. How much longer will you wait for permission to live the life you want? That night, Emma realized something painful. She wasn't waiting for the right moment, she was waiting to feel fearless. And that moment would never come. Fear doesn't disappear before you act. It only fades after you prove to yourself that you can survive the outcome. So she made a decision. She took the risk. She left her stable job, launched her business, and faced every challenge that came her way. And yes, there were struggles. But there was also progress, growth, and most importantly, movement. Months later, she looked back and realized something shocking. The thing that had paralyzed her for years wasn't the risk itself, it was her unwillingness to face the unknown. No decision is a safe decision. Many people assume that avoiding decisions keeps them safe. But indecision is its own silent destroyer. It doesn't protect you, it erodes you. The job you don't leave, the relationship you don't walk away from, the opportunities you let pass by, they don't keep you safe. They keep you stuck. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." Most people don't live, they wait. They wait for clarity, for confidence, for a sign that guarantees success. But life doesn't offer guarantees. It offers movement, learning, and adaptation. The truth: even a wrong decision moves you forward. A misstep teaches you what doesn't work. A failed attempt builds resilience. The only real failure is staying in the same place, hoping life will hand you a roadmap. How to decide, even in uncertainty. If you struggle with decision-making, start with this. Accept the unknown. You will never have all the answers. But clarity comes through action, not overthinking. Ask the right question. Don't ask, "What if I fail?" Ask, "What happens if I never try?" Detach from perfect outcomes. No decision will lead to flawless results. Seek growth, not perfection. Commit and adapt. A decision is not a lifelong sentence. If things don't go as planned, adjust. But don't let fear keep you motionless. Regret or uncertainty, choose wisely. Howard Schultz, the man who built Starbucks into a global phenomenon, had no certainty when he pursued his vision. When he first tried to bring the European cafe experience to America, he faced rejection after rejection. Investors didn't believe in his idea. Advisors told him he was taking an unnecessary risk. But Schultz understood something most people don't. The greatest risk is not action, it's inaction. Had he listened to doubt, Starbucks wouldn't exist. But because he made a decision despite uncertainty, changed not only his life, but an entire industry. The question is, what decisions are you avoiding right now? What dreams, changes, and opportunities are you postponing because you're waiting for permission from certainty? You won't find it, but you don't need it. You only need the courage to step forward. Because in the end, life is not measured by the decisions you delayed, but by the ones you dared to make. 4. Unapologetically you. The power of embracing your true self. From the moment we are born, the world tells us who we should be. It hands us expectations, molds us with judgment, and teaches us that acceptance is something we must earn. We learn to adjust or shrink parts of ourselves, to amplify others, to mold our identity based on what is praised and what is criticized. But in doing so, we trade authenticity for approval. We silence our own voice so the world will accept us. Yet, the greatest tragedy is not being misunderstood by others, it is misunderstanding yourself. The weight of living for others. Mark spent most of his life trying to fit in. As a child, he learned that being different made him a target. So, he adapted. He laughed at jokes he didn't find funny. He agreed when he wanted to disagree. He pursued a career that others told him was smart, even though it drained him. On the outside, he looked successful, but inside, he felt like a stranger in his own life. Every decision, every achievement, every relationship, none of it truly belonged to him. He wasn't living his life, he was performing it. Then, one day, he asked himself a simple but terrifying question. If I stripped away every expectation, every fear of judgment, who would I be? The silence that followed was deafening, because for the first time he realized he didn't know. The cost of pretending. We often believe that adapting to others makes life easier, that if we say the right things, behave the right way, and follow the right path, we will find happiness. But the truth is, living for others is exhausting. It drains you piece by piece, until one day you wake up and realize that you have spent years wearing a mask so well that you forgot what was underneath. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Why do we value the approval of others more than the approval of ourselves? Why do we crave acceptance from people who don't live our lives, who don't carry our burdens, who don't wake up to our reality? The people who truly matter won't love the version of you that conforms, they will love the version of you that is real. And those who only accept you when you fit their expectations, they were never meant to walk this journey with you. Choosing authenticity over approval. If you've spent years trying to be what others want, how do you reclaim yourself? Question your conditioning. Ask yourself, what parts of me are truly mine? And what parts have I adopted just to fit in? Embrace your uniqueness. The things that make you different are not weaknesses. They are your signature. Own them. Let go of the fear of judgment. People will always have opinions. Let them. Your life does not belong to them. Align your life with your truth. Your career, relationships, and daily choices should reflect your values, not someone else's expectations. The freedom of being yourself. Viola Davis, one of the most celebrated actresses of our time, was once told she wasn't marketable enough to dark-skinned, not glamorous enough, not Hollywood enough. If she had listened, she would have faded into the background, suppressing her talent to meet an impossible standard. But instead, she chose herself. She rejected the industry's definition of beauty and success. She embraced her voice, her presence, her truth. And in doing so, she didn't just change her own life, she redefined representation for generations to come. The lesson? The world does not need another imitation. It needs you, the courage to stand alone. Many fear that being themselves will lead to isolation, that if they stop people-pleasing, they will lose relationships, opportunities, acceptance. And the truth is, yes, they might. But what they will gain is far more valuable. Inner peace, the kind that comes from living in alignment with your truth. Real connections, relationships built on authenticity, not performance. Freedom, the ability to live, love, and pursue without the weight of constant approval seeking. At the end of your life, you will not regret the times you were true to yourself. You will regret the moments you betrayed yourself just to belong. So, if you are waiting for permission to be yourself, this is it. The world does not get to decide who you are. That is your power, your privilege, your responsibility. And the moment you embrace it, you will understand. There is no greater success than living as unapologetically you. 5. The power of response. How you shape your own destiny. Life does not unfold in a straight line. It twists, it bends, it throws storms when you expect sunshine. You will face criticism, betrayal, rejection moments that test your patience, your strength, your very sense of self. But here's the truth. Life is not about what happens to you. It is about how you choose to respond. You cannot control the storms, but you can control how you stand in the rain. The space between action and reaction. Imagine two people stuck in traffic. One grips the wheel, frustration boiling over as they honk impatiently, cursing at the delay. The other takes a deep breath, turns on their favorite music, and accepts the moment for what it is outside their control. Same situation, different experience. The difference? One allowed external circumstances to dictate their emotions. The other took control of their reaction. Epictetus, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And yet, most people go through life believing the opposite, that their happiness, peace, and success are determined by what the world throws at them. But here's the reality. No one can make you angry. No one can ruin your day. No one has the power to control emotions unless you hand it to them. The unshakable mindset. Picture this. Emma, a young entrepreneur, pours her heart into a new business venture. She invests everything: time, energy, resourcefully to watch it fail within a year. She has two choices. She can collapse under the weight of failure, seeing it as proof that she wasn't good enough. Or she can step back, analyze what went wrong, and use the experience as fuel to grow stronger. The first choice traps her in self-doubt. The second choice transforms failure into wisdom. This is the power of response. You don't get to decide every event in your life, but you do get to decide the meaning you attach to it. Training yourself to respond, not react. Most people live on autopilot. Someone insults them, they react with anger. A plan falls apart, they react with frustration. But true strength is found in the space between action and reaction. Here's how you cultivate it. Pause before reacting. When something upsets you, stop. Breathe. Give yourself time to choose your response instead of being controlled by impulse. Ask, does this deserve my energy? Not everything requires a reaction. Some battles are best won by silence. Some insults are best ignored. Reframe the situation. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Detach from the outcome. You cannot control others. You cannot control every result. But you can control how much power you give to circumstances. Mastering your emotions is mastering your life. A man once came to the Buddha, furious, shouting insults. The Buddha listened calmly and then asked, if someone offers you a gift and you refuse to accept it, to whom does it still belong? The man, confused, answered, to the one who offered it. The Buddha nodded. Exactly. And so it is with anger, hatred, and negativity. If you do not accept them, they remain with the person who carried them. This is the essence of self-mastery. People will insult you, provoke you, try to pull you into their chaos. But you do not have to accept their energy. You do not have to react on their terms. From victim to creator, think of the most successful, fulfilled people you know. Are they the ones who dwell on problems, or are they the ones who adapt, who rise, who turn setbacks into comebacks? Life does not create victims. Victimhood is a mindset, a belief that you are powerless. But the moment you shift your focus from what is happening to me to how can I grow from this, everything changes. You stop being a passenger in your own life. You become the driver. How you react to setbacks, to failures, to insults, to the unexpected chaos of life defines the quality of your existence. The weak react, the strong respond. So the next time life challenges you, pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, will I let this control me, or will I control myself? Your answer will shape your destiny. 6. The art of giving without losing yourself. Kindness is often seen as a pure and unquestionable virtue, something that makes the world softer, more compassionate, more humane. We are told to be generous, to help others, to always be a person. And yet, kindness without wisdom can become a trap. It can leave you drained, taken advantage of, and wondering why the same generosity that was supposed to uplift you has only left you exhausted. The truth is, kindness alone is not enough. It must be paired with discernment, because without wisdom, kindness can make you vulnerable, and without kindness, intelligence can turn you cold. The burden of an open heart. Simon was the kind of person everyone relied on. At work, he covered for colleagues who missed deadlines. In friendships, he was always available, always the one making the plans, checking in, offering support. He believed that if he just gave enough, people would appreciate him. But over time, he noticed something. The people he helped rarely helped him in return. His co-workers expected him to pick up their slack. His friends assumed he would always be there, no matter how one-sided the effort had become. He felt drained, unseen, and quietly resentful. One evening, after yet another favor left him scrambling to meet his own responsibilities, a thought crossed his mind. Why does my kindness feel like a burden instead of a gift? When kindness becomes a weakness, being kind does not mean being blind. It does not mean tolerating disrespect, overextending yourself, or sacrificing your well-being for people who only take. There is a reason Marcus Aurelius advised, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. This does not mean allowing others to take advantage of you. It means holding yourself to a higher standard of wisdom. It means knowing when to give and when to step back. If your kindness is not respected, if it is constantly met with entitlement rather than gratitude, then it is time to ask yourself, am I giving out of genuine generosity, or am I afraid to set boundaries? Cleverness, the shield that protects your kindness. Kindness without boundaries invites exploitation, but intelligence without compassion creates isolation. The balance lies in being both giving and guarded, open-hearted, but not naive. Here's how you cultivate this balance. Give, but observe. Pay attention to how people respond to your generosity. Do they appreciate it, or do they expect it? True kindness is reciprocal, not transactional, but it should never be one-sided. Know when to say no. Saying no is not unkind. It is self-respect. If someone only values you when you say yes, they never valued you only what you could do for them. Help, but don't enable. Support those who genuinely need it, but do not carry burdens that are not yours to bear. Sometimes, the best help you can give is letting others handle their own responsibilities. Prioritize yourself too. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If your kindness leaves you exhausted rather than fulfilled, it is time to set limits. The strength in setting boundaries. When Simon finally started saying no, something interesting happened. Some people disappeared from his life, the ones who had only been there for what he could provide. But the people who truly cared, they respected his boundaries. They valued his time, his effort, his presence. He realized that kindness should not cost him his peace. That generosity, when given wisely, is a strength, but when given carelessly, it becomes a weakness. True kindness is not about giving endlessly, it is about giving wisely. It is knowing the difference between helping someone and allowing yourself to be used. So ask yourself, is my kindness strengthening me, or is it depleting me? Because the strongest kindness is not the one that sacrifices itself, it is the one that knows its own worth. 7. The bridge between hearts. Why communication defines relationships. Love, in its purest form, is not just an emotion, it is an understanding. It is the silent exchange of trust, the unspoken assurance of respect, and the willingness to meet another soul where they are. But no matter how deep the love, no matter how strong the bond, relationships cannot survive without communication. Yet, many believe love alone is enough, that feelings should be understood without words, that misunderstandings will resolve themselves, that silence is better than difficult conversations. And so, instead of speaking, people assume. Instead of expressing, they suppress, until one day, the distance is too wide to cross. When words are left unspoken. Emma and Daniel had been together for years. They loved each other, but lately something felt off. Conversations became shorter. The warmth in their laughter faded. And when conflicts arose, instead of talking, they avoided. Daniel assumed Emma was just stressed. Emma assumed Daniel no longer cared. Neither voiced their thoughts, yet both felt the weight of unspoken words. And so, the silence grew not in anger, but in quiet detachment. Then one evening, Emma asked, "Do you even love me anymore?" Daniel was shocked. "Of course I do. Why would you think that?" She hesitated. "Because you never say it. You never ask how I'm feeling. I feel like I don't know you anymore." It wasn't that Daniel didn't care. It was that he assumed his actions spoke for him. But love needs words. It needs to be seen, heard, reaffirmed, not just felt in silence. If communication is the key to strong relationships, why do so many avoid it? Because real conversations require vulnerability. They require the courage to express emotions without knowing how they will be received. We fear confrontation, so we suppress. We fear being misunderstood, so we stay silent. We fear rejection, so we pretend everything is fine. But here's the truth. Silence does not protect love. It slowly dismantles it. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." True communication is not just about talking, it is about listening. It is about understanding before responding, about seeking clarity instead of assuming intent. To master communication in relationships, listen with presence. Don't just hear words, understand the emotions behind them. Most conflicts are not about what is said, but what is left unsaid. Speak with honesty, not hostility. Saying how you feel does not mean attacking the other person. Instead of, "You never listen to me," say, "I feel unheard and that hurts." Don't fear difficult conversations. Discomfort is temporary, but unresolved issues grow into resentment. Face them before they build walls between you. Clarify. Instead of assuming, instead of jumping to conclusions, ask, "What did you mean by that?" Assumptions destroy more relationships than truth ever could. The strength in being understood. Emma and Daniel's story did not end that night. Instead, it became a turning point. They stopped assuming and started expressing. Daniel learned that love needs to be spoken, not just felt. Emma learned that asking for reassurance is not weakness, but honesty. And through communication, they rediscovered each other. Every relationship, romantic, familial, or friendship, is built on one foundation: understanding. And understanding cannot exist without communication. So, ask yourself, are you truly communicating, or are you simply hoping to be understood in silence? Because love is not just about being there, it is about being heard, being seen, and being known. 8. The silent path to strength. How solitude fuels growth. We live in a world that fears solitude. People equate being alone with loneliness, silence with emptiness, and stillness with stagnation. They seek constant noise, distraction, and validation, believing that their worth is tied to their presence in the lives of others. But what if the greatest transformation doesn't happen in the crowd but in the quiet? Solitude is not an escape from life. It is a return to the self. Why we avoid being alone. The fear of solitude is not really a fear of being alone, it is a fear of facing ourselves. Most people keep busy not because they are productive, but because stillness forces them to confront the thoughts they have been avoiding. Regrets, doubts, insecurities, these voices grow louder when the world is silent, and so they run. They fill their days with noise, their minds with distractions, their lives with people who do not nourish them, all to avoid the uncomfortable weight of self-reflection. But running never brings peace. It only delays the inevitable. The wisdom of being alone. Epictetus once said, No man is free who is not master of himself. And to master oneself, one must first know oneself. That knowledge of who you are, what you value, what you truly seek, can only be found in solitude. When you embrace solitude, something shifts. You learn to be your own source of strength. Instead of relying on others for validation, you build self-trust. You sharpen your mind. Without external distractions, you begin to think deeply, critically, and independently. You uncover your true desires. Away from societal pressure, you discover what truly fulfills you, not just what impresses others. Solitude as a catalyst for growth. Jane Austen, one of the greatest novelists of all time, spent much of her life in quiet observation. While others sought the excitement of social circles, she found inspiration in solitude. It was in those quiet moments, watching, reflecting, thinking, that she developed an unparalleled understanding of human nature. Her story proves a simple truth. Solitude is not isolation, it is preparation. It is the space where ideas are born, where clarity emerges, where transformation begins. Make time for stillness. Set aside time each day to disconnect from noisy. No phone, no social media, no distractions. Just you and your thoughts. Journal your reflections. Writing clarifies the mind. Use solitude to explore your thoughts, fears, and aspirations on paper. Engage in deep work. The greatest ideas, the most profound insights, come from uninterrupted focus. Use solitude to create, not just consume. Practice self-inquiry. Ask yourself, what do I truly want? What is holding me back? The answers will shape your path forward. Solitude is a privilege, not a punishment. The world will try to convince you that being alone is something to be feared. But solitude is not the absence of connection, it is the foundation of it. Only when you are whole within yourself can you build meaningful relationships with others. So the next time you find yourself alone, do not rush to fill the silence. Sit with it, listen to it, grow from it. Because the strongest minds, the deepest thinkers, and the most resilient souls are not those who fear solitude. They are the ones who embrace it. 9. Turning pain into wisdom. Why lessons matter more than wounds. Pain is inevitable. Betrayals, disappointments, failures, these moments carve themselves into our memories, shaping the way we see the world. But while pain is unavoidable, suffering is a choice. Many people carry their wounds like armor, mistaking their scars for identity. They replay past hurts, relive old betrayals, and allow pain to define them. But here's the truth. Your experiences do not determine your future. Your perception of them does. The question is not, why did this happen to me? But what can I learn from this? Imagine two people going through the same heartbreak. One allows it to consume them. They dwell on the betrayal, let bitterness harden their heart, and close themselves off to love. The other feels the pain, but chooses to reflect. They ask, what did this teach me? What patterns do I need to break? How can I use this experience to grow? Same event, different outcome. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Pain only controls you if you let it." Why we struggle to let go. People hold on to pain for many reasons. They believe it gives them meaning. If you've suffered deeply, it can feel like letting go means the pain was for nothing. They confuse healing with forgetting. Moving on doesn't mean the past didn't matter. It means it no longer controls you. They find comfort in victimhood. When you blame the world for your pain, you don't have to take responsibility for how you respond to it. But staying in suffering does not undo what happened. It only prolongs its power over you. Reframe the narrative. Instead of saying, "This broke me," say, "This built me." Detach emotionally from the event. Reflect on what happened as if you were advising a friend. Distance brings clarity. Extract the lesson. Every painful experience reveals something about yourself, about others, about life. Find it. Use pain as fuel, not a cage. Let your hardships sharpen you, not harden you. Growth comes from resilience, not resentment. Pain as a teacher, not a master. Oprah Winfrey, one of the most influential figures in the world, faced immense hardship growing up. Poverty, abuse, rejection. Her past could have defined her. She could have remained bitter, angry, resentful. But instead, she transformed her pain into purpose. She took the lessons from her struggles and used them to inspire millions. This is the difference between being shaped by pain and being shackled by it. Pain is not the enemy, it is the teacher. But it is up to you whether you learn from it or let it hold you back. So ask yourself, are you carrying pain or are you carrying wisdom? Because one weighs you down, the other sets you free. 10. Walking away with dignity, the strength of self-respect. There comes a moment in life when you must decide, will you keep holding on to something that no longer serves you, or will you choose yourself? We often mistake endurance for strength. We stay in places where we are unappreciated, hoping that our loyalty will change the outcome. We tolerate disrespect, thinking that patience is a virtue. But self-respect is not about enduring mistreatment. It is about knowing when to walk away. Letting go is not weakness. It is one of the strongest acts of self-respect you can ever perform. People hold on to toxic relationships, unfulfilling jobs, and one-sided friendships not because they don't see the damage, but because they fear what comes next. Fear of being alone. Many would rather stay in a bad situation than face the uncertainty of leaving. Fear of regret. They wonder, what if I'm making the wrong choice? Fear of wasted time. The years, the effort, the emotions invested. Walking away feels like throwing it all away. But staying in something that no longer serves, you will not bring back lost time. It will only steal more of it. Oprah Winfrey once found herself in a professional relationship that was draining her, stripping her of joy and self-respect. For years, she kept trying until she realized something profound. I could either keep waiting for someone to treat me right, or I could treat myself right first. She walked away, and that choice became the turning point in her career, leading her toward greater success than she ever imagined. Self-respect is not about demanding love, validation, or appreciation. It is about knowing you do not have to beg for what should be freely given. Accept that not everything is meant to last. Some people and situations are temporary lessons, not lifelong commitments. Detach from the need for closure. Not everyone will understand your decision. Not everyone will apologize. Walk away anyway. Trust that better things await. Every time you let go of something misaligned, you create space for something greater. Honor yourself daily. Your actions, your choices, and your boundaries should reflect how much you value yourself. The freedom of moving forward. Imagine waking up one day no longer waiting for an apology, No longer replaying past hurts, no longer shrinking yourself to fit into places that no longer feel right. That is what self-respect gives you peace. Because real strength is not in holding on, it is in knowing when you deserve better. So ask yourself, are you holding on to something that is holding you back? And if the answer is yes, remember, the most powerful thing you can do is walk away silently, gracefully, and without looking back. Because sometimes the greatest act of self-love is knowing when to leave. Life is a series of choosing yourself, choosing growth, choosing to walk away from what no longer serves you. Every lesson we've explored is a reminder that strength is not just about endurance, but about knowing when to let go, when to set boundaries, and when to move forward with dignity. Self-respect is the foundation of a meaningful life. It shapes your relationships, your decisions, and ultimately, your happiness. The world will always try to pull you in different directions, but in the end, the most important question remains, are you honoring yourself? Now, I want to hear from you. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you agree that self-respect is the key to a fulfilling life? Comment below. 1. Strongly agree. This is life-changing. 2. Agree. This resonates deeply. 3. Somewhat agree but still learning. 4. Neutral. I need to reflect more. 5. Disagree. I see it differently. Drop your number in the comments. I read every response. And if this message spoke to you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more wisdom on mastering life with strength and clarity. Until next time, stay grounded, stay strong, and most importantly, stay true to yourself.